Hey guys, what's up? This is Stock Retail coming back to you on Friday the 25th. Happy it's Friday. Happy we've got new movies out as of last night. If you haven't seen Retribution, Gran Turismo, there's a few other indie films kind of out there. Just highlighting Retribution, a few of you had kind of asked me, hey, how come you haven't been mentioning that one? It was kind of a smaller release in terms of the amount of screens it was going to be on, so that's why it hasn't like been in my forecast when I talk about forecast and all that kind of stuff. But I am personally a big fan. I watched all the Taken movies. I watched Commuter. When Liam Neeson is kicking bad guys' butts, that's kind of fun for me. So definitely looking forward to this one. Hopefully some of you are too, and you can enjoy. And then let's be honest, I think some of us would like a little retribution right now. It was not a super pleasant week, and some of us believe that there is some rampant manipulation out there, and we would love to see that stopped and see Apes laugh last. And I believe that day will come. I just don't know when. So, without further ado, let's get into some discussion today. First, I want to talk about, I saw on Twitter a few posts about, and guys, I still call it Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, old habits die hard. I saw some discussions on like, what the heck, how come it shows like an all-time high of like basically 400, you can kind of see here, in name your broker, name your charting tool, name your app. And I saw that going around Twitter. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. That's been kind of for a while now. It's adjusted again. So when Ape was created, you may have noticed the like historic charts updated. So I think for a while, the high in June of 2021 was 40 something. And then you notice now it's showing 393. So on a reverse split adjusted basis, that'd be more like 39, right? So the charts are updating based on the different splits that have been happening, and the conversion and just all the things going on. So that is what's going on, is they're kind of trying to restate history. I've told you guys I have some background in forecasting, so that means I know a thing or two about data. Sometimes you go back and you restate history. Or actually, you guys know all about that. I don't have to tell you, because you're seeing the government do that with things like, economic numbers, employment numbers. Go back and change the numbers from months ago. Make them rosy in the time, and then when people forget, go back and change them. There are sometimes real reasons you do that, but I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek here. But so here's the point. These charts are reflecting all of the corporate actions and the split out to Ape and the reverse split and the conversion back together. So they're attempting to try to represent the past in light of changes that have happened since then. Because if you didn't, then, we ran to what, 72? I think. I always quote 72. I'd have to go back and look. Boy, that feels like ancient history now. That's a long time ago. That'd be 720. But if you think about like the market cap that represents and all that, it doesn't quite add up. So when stocks go through this stuff, charts are split adjusted. But that's going to matter here. So let's look through a couple of data points. Notice I'm highlighting here the week of January 8th before the first big run, where a lot of us, let's be honest, combination of caught some frenzy, but also actually I came because I loved this notion of apes and people banding together and sort of fighting against the machine. I really loved it. Feeling like you're on the side of what's right and stopping corruption in our markets. That appealed to me. So I came both for, let's be honest, for money, and then for, I stayed for the movement. But look at these prices on a split adjusted basis. January 8th, before the big run. Notice that week was a high. It opened, I haven't circled this, it's to the left there, you can see of the circle. Opened at 1192. These are weekly candles, so you're just looking at a total week here. Had a high of 1209 that week and a low of 1035, and closed at 1160. Well, think about our close today, right? So we're kind of in that range, a little bit above that even. Interesting to note when you consider that in January, on a split adjusted basis with this float, we were basically kind of 10 to 12 bucks. By that June, it had run to that high of 393, again on that split adjusted basis, basically 394 there. So in those few months, it had gone, 40x. It had gone up, say from 10 to 400, that's 40 times, 4,000%. So, don't tell me that it can't happen again if it's already happened before. So let's talk through that a little bit. And by the way, hopium alert here. I'm not trying to say, hey guys, spend a bunch of money, this is happening. That's not what I'm saying. but I am just saying, has it happened before? That's the only question I'm answering. Has it happened before, and what were the conditions then versus the conditions now? I've talked about that a few times. At that time, when it ran basically 4,000% or 3,963% or whatever, was a higher short interest now. Sorry, now we have a higher short interest than then, a higher cost to borrow, higher days to cover, higher shares on loan, and more retail ownership than we had back then. We own more of the float. We have far, forgive me, but far better business. In January 2021, that was the lockdown. In June of 2021, I just am showing you here the box office. So how was our business doing? That box office in Q2 2021, by the way, just special memories there if I could detour for a second. I guess the 31st of March, I believe it was. I got that in my head. Maybe it was the 30th. In Oregon, so I guess I'm telling you where I am. That was the day that Oregon was more locked down than a lot of states. That was the day that theaters opened, and what happened to be coming out that day was Kong versus Godzilla. So my son and I went and saw Kong versus Godzilla. I was already an ape then, so that's really meaningful to me. Like, the lockdowns ended, and I saw Kong that same day. So that's a really just special time. Obviously March being Q1, but Kong, most of those results, I just told you that's like the 31st of March. Most of those results were kind of Q2 of that year, this year we're looking at here. So you can see the domestic box office was 811 million. The Q2 that we just finished, so let's compare the same quarters. So Q2 of this year was almost 2.7 billion. So you can see I'm just putting it in millions so you can compare. 811 versus 2,678. The domestic box office is more than triple what it was then, or you could say it's up 230%. It's 330% of what it was then. Just about, I'm kind of maybe exaggerating here, but lower everything. So debt is lower than it was then. Rent is lower than it was then. The studio percent cut that they take of AMC's admissions is lower than it was then. So expenses are lower, revenues higher than when we ran 4,000% in a few months. We have higher food and beverage now per person. We have higher tickets per person. All the people screaming on Twitter and trying to feed you with despair are there. They're not saying any of this. Now again, hopium alert. I'm also not saying this is for sure going to happen. I'm not even saying it's a high probability of happening, but I'm saying it has happened before in far worse conditions. Just look at the bottom asterisk. Past performance is no guarantee of future results, right? Like, I talked yesterday about kind of being between hopium and despair. So perhaps I'm leaning a tiny bit towards hopium on this slide, and I'm being honest with you about that. But there's a reason I'm still in this play, and I have to ask myself, do I still believe in the possibility of good things here? And I do. 2021, well, I guess I already talked about all that. So basically from 10 to 400. Yeah, I don't know. You got to ask yourself, either if you're here for a squeeze or just even as a fundamental play, as AMC pays off debt. I've already highlighted in other videos how that's going to be at a discount. That's not hopium. That's happened 8 of the last 10 quarters that they've gotten very large discounts on paying off debt, which is why I am countering the dilution argument. Yes, there's dilution, but the flip side of that will be value creation. So if you believe that the fundamentals are going to keep improving, more movies are coming over the next year or so, yes, we have to kind of keep an eye on the strike, but movies have been improving quarter over quarter, year over year, while the food and beverage spending has been going up and the popcorn business is growing. And they've gotten a lot of their expenses under control. So that tells me we're on a great fundamental path. If you're even here just for a fundamental investment and with a chance at a squeeze, on top of that, I don't know. It feels good to me. That's why I'm still here. But what does not feel good, that I'll just acknowledge, is how far down we all are. Anybody who's up either, bought all the perfect puts and flipped them back into shares, or you just bought in or something. I don't know. But so it's okay for us to acknowledge, like, there's not probably a lot of super joyful apes at the end of this week, but you can hopefully hear my smile coming through the microphone. I'm still able to smile. I still have some hope. I still believe in what we're doing. Speaking of a better business, Q3, where we are right now, so this is as of yesterday, so through August 24th, You know what, by the way, side note, if you watched the video yesterday, you noticed I was trying to make a kind of a metaphor, make a point, and I used Kobe Bryant and talked about how he trained with Hakeem Olajuwon on his footwork. I was talking to you guys about balance, being balanced in life, and not getting wrong-footed and being able to be pushed over. I hadn't even thought, guys, about Mamba mentality and 824 and all of that. So that kind of, somebody gave me goosebumps when they sort of replied about that. I got to confess, when he was playing, I wasn't much of a fan. You know, I told you I'm here in Oregon, Blazers fan. We don't like the Lakers here. Sorry, guys. Although, yeah, anyway, too many personal notes. The point is, I thought that was kind of cool that on Mamba Day, I'm telling you, it was by accident, I don't know, by accident, coincidence that I kind of talked about Kobe. So just rest in peace, Kobe, or rest in power if you prefer to say that. And yeah, he did some good things in life, you know, in hindsight. Anyway, detouring on that. If you look at, as of 8/24, Q3 2023, you can see is already bigger than all of Q3 last year. We're what, 119 million bucks, or no, 121 million dollars. Sorry, above last year at the same day. So, you know, we're tracking real well. You can see, just, you know, look at like how many releases there are. Look at the average there on the right. Things are looking really good in terms of the business improvement, which I also talked about, I think yesterday, that Q3 looks like profits to me, very similar to Q2, with a few minor tweaks. So things are much better. It's happened before. That doesn't mean it can happen now, but on less squeezy metrics with a worse business, it happened before. I don't know, can lightning strike twice, I guess. Will I stick around in case it does? Options updates. So options began trading today. I had told you, and I think in the last video, that the options chain was kind of frozen. They weren't sort of exchanging hands. That started today. And remember that there's basically 3 different options chains. 2 of them, you know, were pre-existing. So you carry in the AMC 1s and now these AMC 2s. Just kind of keep an eye on the volumes of those. Pardon me, guys. Struggle bus today. Keep an eye on the volumes of those because they're not as liquid. You know, I owned some AMC 1s when Ape was created, and I noticed, like, you know, those don't trade as frequently. They're not as liquid. So especially if you own some too, consider probably limit orders if you're ever selling those. You're selling at the market, you know, you're potentially rolling the dice a bit more with what price you're going to get. Maybe just do some homework, do some research on where you think those should be. And then as far as the let's call it the standard options chain, you know, that has started. I guess if you're a more sophisticated investor, you know, I always encourage apes. If you don't know what you're doing, generally you might want to stay away from options. I'm not telling you what to do, but you can make a lot of money, but you can lose it all too. It can just be wiped out. Whereas shares, you own a piece of the company. Options, you own a contract that can pay out if everything goes your way. You know, hear that big if. It's a little more like, you know, playing at the casino. Some people know what they can do. So, you know, I'm not insulting those who really know what they're doing and who've done their homework and have studied the Greeks and all that. I knew some people who've read whole books on how to trade options. But that you should hear right there. That's a level of detail that people decide they need to go to in order to do well in those. So just be thoughtful there, but just wanted to give you some information. Oops. All right, so the conversion, transfer, and then the settlement. 2 different things. So the Ape conversion, I know some of you saw some funkiness with your brokers. We saw yesterday, I think one Ape had some of her shares cleared, but confirmed with the broker they were putting them back. Some of you, I saw today, didn't get your Ape right away. I think Fidelity in particular, some of you seemed like that was slower for you. For me, my broker, it happened last night, but I was up a little late here, West Coast, so I noticed that it happened. So just keep track of your shares, keep track of your broker, ask questions. I saw some people also on Twitter saying you got charged like a $38 fee. I want to say that might have been TD Ameritrade. I don't remember now. Sorry if that's wrong. But some of you were getting some fees, some conversion fees, and I saw that some folks called their brokers and got those fees waived. So maybe just double check your shares, double check your fees if there's anything there. When in doubt, email or call your broker and just talk to them directly. Second point here is Ape being delisted. So I had seen this morning a filing showing that. Maybe I even saw that last night, actually, guys. Sorry, it's been such a week between work and all of this AMC stuff. My brain is a little fuzzy on what I saw and when. But I know I saw a filing, and then someone else DM'd it to me towards the end of the day as well. And they made an interesting point that it specifically was delisting Ape. You know, when I first saw that yesterday, I didn't think anything of it because, of course, we've always known we're not going to trade Ape anymore. Just kind of interesting, that language. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. I don't want to say too much more right now because I haven't done any DD on that. I don't think it necessarily means anything. I don't mean to be spooking anybody. It's not like a big thing, but just letting you know, like, okay, Ape is done trading. Probably seeing that in your brokers. You saw it get converted into AMC. Now, we haven't had the settlement yet, although I know I saw some Apes also. One was in Canada, another I think in, I don't remember now if it was Germany or England, where some of you have seen some of the settlement shares already showing up. But, you know, AMC confirmed that they had not yet passed them through the transfer agent, ComputerShare, to our brokers, who then put it in our accounts. So whatever you're getting, if you've got settlement shares already, then either your broker just owned extra shares that they're putting in your account, or those are basically phantom, just numbers on a screen that they're saying they're sort of crediting you for having that amount of shares because they're coming. But either way, some of you, I'm sure, will not see your shares on Monday. I'm just going to guess, and that's not fact, that's just guessing, that it might be similar to Ape, where it took a minute. It took, for some people, I think, you know, a week or more. Some people maybe even 10 days before Ape really showed up in their accounts. So stay vigilant, look at your accounts, but maybe you don't freak out. Just, you know, be talking to your brokers, ensure that they are paying attention and getting things resolved for you. You know, I plan to hodl mine, but I know that some of you may either need to trade, or some of you, you know, bills hit. I understand that. And so if you want access to your whole portfolio, you need to be on top of your broker. So just letting you know, like, maybe don't spend too hard if you don't see everything just first thing Monday morning. But I understand if it was me, that would bug me, and I would want to talk to my broker. All right, wanted to talk through one last sort of businessy thing, and then I just have a couple other thoughts, and we'll send ourselves to the weekend. There was a pretty big volume spike today, later in the day. Someone happened, actually no, I happened to notice the drop in price. I think I saw a DM somewhere too, and so then I went and checked the chart. And I noticed there was a massive volume spike too. Now that could be a few things. Sometimes, you know, a market maker or a wholesaler as well might just have parked a bunch of sells. We believe they do that to us and then dumped them. That could happen. Someone like Antara could have dumped some of their shares. We've seen that happen before. It can also be some of that dilution. You know, that could have been Adam and team selling shares in. We wouldn't know for a while. We'd probably normally see a press release from them. So I'm going to guess that's possibly not it. But I will just confess that there were times where with Ape, I could watch and I would see these big volume spikes and I'd see Ape dip a little. And I had a hunch that that was selling. And then sure enough, later I'd find out the company had sold some shares. Now, I understand that's an emotional conversation. You know where I stand. You know that I trust this leadership. I believe they've shown a pattern and a history and a track record of using dilution to create even more value than they dilute. You know, the example I keep using, you guys, is would you give a business leader $10 if they could return 13 to you? Yes, the answer is yes. And so there's a scenario there. Go watch. I have a whole video on dilution. It's very old, probably before I had this microphone, so I might be real quiet on that video. But there's a whole video I did on dilution. I don't quite know when, guys, but probably last November, December, maybe, of 2022, where I talk about value creation and this notion of dilution and all of that. So go check that out sometime. But I'm just saying to you, it is possible that there were some shares sold into the market today. Otherwise, like I said, that could be some dumps that happened to us. Yes, that doesn't feel great in the moment. But if they turn around and announce, let's just pretend for a minute, like that candle was, I don't know, 830,000 shares, I think, on the 1 minute candle. I'm showing you 5 minute candles here. let's say there was 1 million shares, and it was, I don't know, at 14, I forgot what, 14.50 or something at the time. So all right, let's say he got 15 million bucks, but he pays off 20, of debt. Well, then in theory, the company is up $5 million, and that up 5 million, think of it as getting put into every one of our shares, plus the new shares. There's that dilution. But, in theory, that doesn't dilute the price of our shares in the long run because they're delivering value. So just a point of view. We'll see. Okay, I just want to talk a little bit about what is an ape. I had a conversation with a friend today, and it was just triggering some thoughts, and we were just bouncing back and forth a little bit. We're like, man, you know what? Like, are we not apes if things are going badly for AMC? And don't get me wrong, like, I know the vast majority of apes are both silently and some loudly hodling and not leaving. Apes not leaving. I use that hashtag on almost every tweet because I mean it. And many of you mean it. And so, I'm kind of proud of us, and I'm proud of our strength for sticking through some hard times. And I'm just going to kind of be real with myself and with you that I do think about, from where we came in 2021 and the amount of interaction and engagement and friendliness and support and these kinds of things, and the ideas of apes together strong. And I probably should have even put in here, have you ever seen that meme of like the fish, and it's kind of like when everybody figures this out, the whole world is going to change. And it's like there's this shark behind like a whole bunch of fish, and I think the idea is the fish kind of shape up like a shark, and they're going after the shark. I don't know, maybe I didn't explain that well, but probably a lot of you have seen that meme. But the point is, apes together strong, or the many of us are strong. And, there were days where apes also was more than just AMC, right? Maybe it was other so-called meme stocks. Maybe it was certain crypto and things like that. And then, along the way, we had moments of division, we had infiltration, we had bad players, we had short and distort, people pitting us against each other. But let's think for a minute too, in terms of like politics and left versus right and red versus blue and MAGA versus woke and whatever label you want to give it. But hear that versus. Like, no one's coming together in enough cases. And it is my point of view, so perhaps I'm getting a little too philosophical here, this isn't stock talk, that when we're divided, we are weak. There's a reason for apes together strong. And that division and infighting and bickering only helps powerful people stay in power. And that's what they want, right? People don't like to lose power, and people don't like to lose money, and there's a reason what we're doing is really hard. And there's a reason I'm here for it. So I guess I'm just asking a question. Are you only an ape if AMC is winning? What about these concepts of all people equal? There's a neat group that I've got on this third bullet here, Apes for Change. There was energy and vision around, even in small ways, sometimes big ways, making the world a better place for some people and helping some people and driving a shift in more positive culture. What about meme life even? Like, we were having fun. People would tag me with all kinds of GIFs and memes, and you get those crazy, I don't know, people call them hell threads on Twitter, right? They just go and go and go. And there was just a certain level of like irreverence and fun and that kind of stuff too. What about this idea of righting wrongs? I've had some tweets in the past if I get a little fired up, and I just talk about, I don't think it's okay that there's powerful people effectively taking food off of tables and clothes off of backs. I don't think that's okay. So am I going to be part of attempting to change that, or am I going to just fight with people? So are those concepts dead for you? I mean, I just ask. I'm really asking. It's a genuine question. Is it that, okay, MOAS hasn't happened, my life hasn't changed, so these concepts are just dead? Were they ever real for us? Real questions. So, I don't know. If you're not here for that, if you're not here for the touchy-feely stuff, and you're not here for a movement, that's fine. There's plenty of people here for the money. And I'll continue to talk about the stock. I'll continue talking about fundamentals and forecasts, and I'll nerd out. I'm going to keep doing that. So come back to the next videos or whatever. But for those of you who this is hitting a little bit, let's just pause for a minute and think about, are we rolling over or are we sticking around? For me, the answer is let's go.